Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, one and all. It's time for the Books That Make You show. I am your host, Desiree Duffy, and today we're going to be talking about books that make you and your children experience the world in a whole new way through the eyes of a crab. But first, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, which is Novelty Tins. Look at this, Lucia. This is a tin. It looks like a book. Isn't that pretty?
Wow, it's beautiful. I love the colors.
It's Pioki Pan instead of Peter Pan. So they do tea-themed tins and teas at Novelty Tins, and they're just adorable. They're great if you love tea, if you love books. They've got little ones as well, like this is Sense and Sensibility. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, I want to try it.
It's so good. You can check them out, noveltytins.com.
Mm-hmm.
This one I love. Pride and Peppermint. Isn't that cute?
I love peppermint.
I know, me too. Okay, we are talking with Lucia Matuonto. Okay. Because we've all felt out of place at times, right? We've all had those moments in our lives where we're confused and we feel like we don't fit in. And this is especially true for kids who are still learning about the entire world around them. They're trying to figure out how things work. And so using allegory, like a lonely lost crab, is just an excellent way for children to understand the world they live in. And our guest today is Lucia. She is an author, a podcaster. She's also a children's psychotherapist. And Lucia is the author of the children's book series, Zoe the Crab. And it's a tale that promotes inclusion and diversity with children. She is also the host of her own online program, Uncut, with Lucia on worldauthors.org, which is a web series that allows people to get to know authors and their favorite books. Hi, Lucia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Desiree. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. I am so excited to have you here. I've been waiting to talk to you. I love the theme of your writing and your books and everything that you're sharing with children and parents too. So how about if you start by telling us talk about your books. Give us the setup, the whole theme in a nutshell.
So my book is called Zoe the Crab. And it's the story of a little crab who lives with her mother and her two teenage brothers. Mm-hmm. They live on a beach in Florida, and she's happy on the beach, but the problem is she has some difficulties to leave her house. I guess I should say her little hole, the little hole where she lives. And she keeps complaining that also she would like to move forwards instead of moving sideways. So she compares herself with other animals, and sometimes she feels that she's silly by the way she moves. So also she needs help from other animals, other crabs, to leave her house. One day she goes on an adventure with her brothers, and unfortunately she has an accident. She gets lost on the beach and she loses her claw. So she becomes a special needs crab.
Oh, I love that. You have so many elements of, accepting others and that feeling of being different, especially when we're kids. Like every little difference seems magnified, doesn't it?
Yes. And where, like, in the place she's lost at the beach, she ends up meeting another animals. And she realizes, for example, Sophia is a snake. Sophia moves forward, but Sophia slithers, and it takes days for her to reach her destination. So Zoe starts understanding that we are all different, but that's okay. You
Uh,
know,
yeah, I love that. I love that. And your book also has elements of courage and strength and friendship too, being friends with animals or people who are different than yourself.
yes, it happens because Zoe lost her claw. So she is different and she starts feeling that she's inferior.
Mm. Yeah.
And then I cannot give too much away, but she meets a crab. And this crab has no tail. And then she starts and asks him, don't you miss your tail? And he says, no, I don't need my tail for anything. But if I would need, I would find another way to, to use it to be um, like the other animals, even if I don't have a tail. So Zoe starts understanding that being disabled doesn't mean that she cannot reach her goals. She can. And you will see it on the book, in the book.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And yeah, especially for children and people who have some kind of they're specially abled like that. It's important for them to understand that you can still do the things. You just might need to do them in a different way. I don't have a tail either, by the way, Lucia. So I managed just fine without one.
Me neither.
Now, tell me, as somebody who lives and travels abroad, because I think right now you're in Spain, but you're originally from Brazil and you've done a lot of traveling. So how does your story reflect your own experience as somebody who's experienced so many different cultures and places and people?
Actually, yes, you're right. I'm from Brazil, but I also come from the US and from Italy. I've been living in so many places. I lived in Middle East, Bahrain, for example, and there is a huge cultural difference. And I got adapted to these differences. And I have to tell you that these differences could build the person I am now. Because I saw, for example, kids in Middle East, some of them, they don't like being treated in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And what I used to do is I started telling them stories. And in the end of the month, I used to give them the story, the written story, and some draws. So what they were super happy, and they started feeling more confident about being treated by me. So I believe that knowing the way people behave in different countries could make me become a more patient person, a more curious person. And I think the idea about writing Zoe the Crab came because of this work I did with these kids.
Yeah. Oh, and that's amazing. And you mentioned the United States, and I know your book is set in Florida. That's where the radio station that airs us is mystar95.com. So you've been to Florida then, I take it.
Yes, I lived in Orlando for some years. I lived in Pittsburgh, but because of my husband's work, we moved to many places, very nice places. We lived also in Germany. And that's why I'm back and forth. I had the chance also to work with kids in the US. I am a physical therapist, and I worked in a clinic that developed a special method of rehabilitation. And I had the chance, because of it, I had the chance to travel around the world teaching other healthcare professionals about this specific method. It's very interesting because basically they wear a suit on the patient, like the patient wears a suit, and this suit is based on astronaut suits. So this gives a lot of stability for the patient, and the results are amazing. So that's why I also could be in touch with children and also their parents.
Sure. Well, and it always seems like people who travel, people who experience different places and people, there's something when you have that well-rounded perspective that it helps you see the world in a totally different way. And I think in a more positive way, actually.
Yes, in a more positive way. And in the end, we are all the same. What we want is to be happy and...
Exactly. So let's talk. So Zoe the Crab is a part of a series for Zoe the Crab. So can you tell us a little bit about your other books too?
Yes. So I have, this is Zoe the Crab, Lost on the Beach.
Love it.
Mystery Island, and The Rescue Mission. Oops, sorry. So on the second book, Zoe goes to an island, and there she meets with many animals that are there being enslaved. And she helps them to get rid of this island. The third one, Zoe ends up going to Australia. And Desiree, Zoe is afraid of heights. She's just like me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, they can be scary. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm so scared of heights. And Zoe ends up going with she is afraid of heights, so she goes on a ship to Australia, and she meets with Tina, this kangaroo. She's a special needs kangaroo, and they become friends.
Oh, I love that. Now, let's talk about, here's the thing. Children can't pick out their own books. When they're little, they don't make buying decisions. That's mom. That's grandma. That's uncles and aunts, teachers, educators. So what do you feel is the message that you want to give to the adults in the children's life? Why should the adults get these books?
Yeah, as I say, Desiree, this book is not only for children, it's for the whole family. And I believe that the adults should be able to understand that, for example, inclusion. When we go to a school and we see a school with neurotypical kids and kids with special needs, the adults should understand that inclusion is not only putting these kids in the same classroom of other kids, like neurotypical kids, rather to be able to bond these kids with other kids and also with teachers and other parents. So by reading this book, I believe that adults start understanding that inclusion is when you welcome people. It's like inviting someone to your house and treat them as family.
Yes, exactly. And your work, your experience, you've worked with kids and parents, so you've taken all of that and put that into your writing. Can you talk about that experience? Was there maybe a moment where you were working and you're like, I need to write this down? How did that transition, that writer's journey develop?
Yes, I have to tell you that writing was always is my oldest friend. I always love writing and reading. Actually, I used to invite my friends to go to my place. They was there waiting for me to play with them, but I was always reading and writing. So I started writing when I was a child, and I kept writing, but I never felt that I was able to publish a book. Long time ago was not as easy as now.
Sure.
So then I started writing a blog with my sister, and then I started writing for a travel blog. And when I was in Bahrain and also in Dubai, that I was writing for kids and drawing as well, I said, I need to write these stories. Maybe one day if I have time. And what happened is, because of this pandemic, because of COVID, I finally had time. And I said, now I have to write the books I've always dreamed about. And as I used to talk to them, I always talk to them about this crab. And I love crabs. I used to stay on the beach in Florida, and I was looking at how they moved, the way they behaved. I said, no, now this is time to write my book. And in 4 months, I published these 3 books.
Wow, that's fast. Congratulations. And the pandemic, COVID, staying at home, wearing masks, just being more isolated. In many ways, it's given people who are creative, who always wanted to write that book, who always wanted to share their stories with the world. In a way, there was a positive angle to that because it forced you. You had the time. There was no more excuses. You couldn't say, I don't have time to write this book. It's like, yes, you do. And I just applaud you and so many other creatives who took the time and took advantage of the time during the pandemic to do just that. So tell me, I love the fact that you say that you've always been a writer and love to write. Were there stories as a kid that also inspired you? What did you read while you were growing up that might, be in the back of your head when you're writing your own books?
Yeah, actually, I read a book. I don't remember the name in English, but it was about a boy who, where he put his finger, it grew flowers, plants. I forgot the name. Maybe you know about this book. And this inspired me a lot. Also, I was inspired not only by children's authors, but also Agatha Christie, Sidney Sheldon. And my books have a kind of suspense.
Yeah, there's a the one is the mystery. So it absolutely, I love that.
Yeah. So I was influenced by many authors, but basically I mix them all. I mix suspense, and also it's fun. It's funny. The situations are funny as well. So.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Now tell us, okay, you've got these 3 books that you released in record time. What's on the horizon next? Are there more books in the series? Are you writing anything else?
My book, Out of the Box, was just published today.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yes. So Out of the Box is the story of 2 kids who live in a town called Gray Town. And Gray Town is very polluted. It's dirty. There are many fabrics, smog. It's like they barely can take a shower. There is no trees. But one day, they ends up finding out, Noah and Mila, a new city, which is called Green City, which is the completely opposite of Grey Town. But like, how Noah and Mila never learned about this city? So you have to find out in the book. But what is important about this book is about how these two children discovered the importance of a greener living and how pushing for change is possible.
That is such an excellent message. I applaud you for that and everything that you do. And one of the things that you do also is, like we mentioned, you are helping other authors too. You are doing your own interviews and your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about what you do for other writers.
So after this extreme lockdown in Spain, I said, I need to do more things because I need talking. I'm like a people person. And I say, maybe I can have my own podcast and I can help other authors to stand out. So I decided to start this very relatable voice podcast. And is RV because my husband and I, we always dreamed about going on a trip with an RV. But in the end, we never could do it because we were living in the US and the distance was so huge that we always always took the plane. Mm-hmm. So I decided to start this podcast in a way in order to help other authors. And then I always said, maybe I can do something like I'm going to visit their city and talk about their lives and also their books. And it was incredible because my podcast became so popular. I'm so happy about it because, you know, an author wants to promote their books. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and of course, they start talking about the podcast to their readers, to their friends and family. And it ended up that it's now turning 1 year and we have more than 300,000 downloads.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Yeah, it does. That's what viralness is, right? It just spreads. One person is on the show, yes. They share it with their network and so on. That's absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Another thing that you are doing is you soon are going to be moderating a panel with children's book authors and their illustrators at the BookFest.
Yes.
Tell us. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. This possibility of being part of this fair is something that I always dreamed about. Thank you very much, Desiree, for this invite. This is precious. And Absolutely. This is like a dream coming true. I'm really excited and I'm getting well prepared for this.
Oh, excellent. And just so everybody knows, Books That Make You presents the BookFest. It happens twice a year in the spring and the fall. Lucia is going to be there for the Spring BookFest, which is coming up April 2nd and 3rd. And even if you miss it live, don't worry, we're content curators, which means you can always find it on the BookFest website. And don't forget, you can sign up for email alerts. Just go to thebookfest.com. That's thebookfest.com. That's it. Sign up for email alerts because we always send out special goodies and announcements too. We do a virtual gift bag and all sorts of fun stuff. So hope you guys can join us for that. Lucia, tell everybody where they can go specifically to find your website, your books. I know you got a lot going on. Tell people where they can find you on social media, all of your details. Give them to us, please.
Thank you very much for asking, Desiree. They can find me on my website, www.luciamatuonto.com. It's difficult. It's Matuonto. They can also find my podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast is the Relatable Voice podcast. They also can find my books on Amazon, Zoe the Crab, and number 1, number 2, and number 3. You see Zoe here. And yes, and I'll be also participating on the book fair and BookFest, on the BookFest, and you can see me there as well.
Amazing, Lucia. Thank you so much for joining us today on Books That Make You. I appreciate you, your writing, your amazing messages that you have for parents and children around the world. You are a true hero. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Desiree. Your words mean a lot to me. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you, everybody, listening and watching, for joining us today on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and yes, check out the BookFest. That's thebookfest.com. And don't forget to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, ring that bell, subscribe. That way you're always up to date when we have wonderful guests on the show, like Lucia and so many other authors and amazing people in the literary world. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.